scout someone and they're like, oh, we love this guy and we're smarter than the rest of the league, we're going to be good. We're smarter than the rest of the league. We don't have to make these trades. We're good. And so I guess how do the Warriors overcome that mentality? Like, is this the season they need to kind of overcome that? Like, oh, crap, we're actually not as smart as we are and we're going to suck. What do you think?
They're supposed to figure it out over the offseason last year. I mean, I can understand losing to the Lakers in the second round a couple of years ago. They had just won a title. Should they have made the team better? Yeah, but they got bounced in the second round. It's not bad. They were competing, right? They went 6 games, and the Lakers had a lineup of agile guys that were problematic for that incarnation of the Warriors. That's cool. But last year they get bounced in the play-in. And Klay Thompson goes out shooting in the play-in, I forgot, 1 for 10 or whatever that depressing number was. So where do they go from here? Is they got to get rid of these damn draft picks. That's what they got to do. Like how do you do right by Steph Curry is like they love their picks, okay? You have your Vucevic's out there and your Cam Johnsons and Jimmy Butlers who don't even want to be there. Use them. 2029 is not relevant. No one is going to give a shit about the Warriors after Steph Curry leaves. These kinds of players don't just churn out of a draft factory every year. Like, who's the youngest player today that's a top 30 guy? Giannis, maybe? And he was drafted 10 years ago. This is an abnormal thing. Your franchise is as valuable as it is today because you drafted a legendary player. They have the right idea. We talked about these ancillary players, but you can't compete by piling up more of these guys with an aging superstar. Just get rid of the damn picks. What's the point of keeping these draft picks? Are you going to hit next year? How do you know you're going to hit next year? You have no idea.
Yeah,
and I sound like I'm whining a little bit. It's
true. It's the truth. It's the truth. It's so frustrating to see them kind of make this mistake year in and year out where you're like, dude, you can't have a 2 timeline anymore. Like, Steph's got maybe 2-3 years left in his prime, like, and maybe he plays another 4-5, like maybe he plays like 5 years total, but like at least another 2-3 where he's still kind of the number one dude. And if you can't find the guy to kind of help him and take over from him later, you're not finding that in the draft. Like unless you get the number 1 pick and you're drafting Cooper Flag, right? Like, I don't know if that's not happening, right? Like, they're not thinking that hard, but it's like, how do you get there? And it's like you said, right? Trade those draft picks. So are there guys on your radar that you want them to trade for before the deadline this year? Is there someone in particular? I know you've been a big Jimmy Buckets guy. So is that a guy you want? Who do you want? Who do you want them to trade these draft picks for now?
Oh, I love Jimmy Butler. I'd love to have Jimmy Butler. I know that he's also an aging superstar and he's difficult to trust given his health. He's also an enigma in the playoffs that can will you to the finals by playing like Michael Jordan in the playoffs and being low-key as a secret. Maybe his son, maybe not. But I want to take a quick step back. Did you see what Draymond said today? This is, January 13th, 2025?
I did not. No, I did not. What did Draymond say?
Draymond said something to the effect of bad teams tank and trade away and mortgage their future. We're not a bad team and we're not going to mortgage our future. And then Steph said earlier this year, you don't just start off 12-3 for nothing. So I wonder if they're, you know how you work for like a private company, you kind of toe the line a little bit and you kind of say things as a company man. Maybe you got like a earnings call coming up and you got to kind of be careful what you say to Wall Street. I don't know if they're just trying not to contaminate the value of the assets they're trying to get rid of, or if they're as drinking the same water as the Lakeups and our poor Stephen Curry and Draymond Green are as delusional as they sound right now.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, Draymond is always a little bit delusional, right? He's drinking that Warrior Kool-Aid. He's always like, we're good. Like, Draymond always talks like that. I don't know why, but he does. I mean, I think he doesn't like. I mean, obviously he's had some incidents where he's been kind of getting flack for that. Like, I think ever since he punched Jordan Poole, he started talking like this. Like, he's like, I can't say anything that goes against the Warriors. Like, that kind of like made him kind of get back to where, like, talk about good about the Warriors. So I think that Draymond, I think it was a little bit of grain of salt. I guarantee you, Steph is. You can see Steph is visibly frustrated these days. Like what was that? That one game where Buddy Hield takes like a heat check shot and like he just like airballs it or something, and Steph just like, like like you can see it on Steph's face these days. It's bad. It's really bad. And I think I don't know what Mike Dunleavy's doing behind the scenes. It's hard to say, but I think they got to trade. They got to go for someone like you said, Jimmy Buckets, Zach LaVine. They got to get somebody. They got to do something to get Steph help.
Yeah, to go back to your question, I do like the idea of Nikola Vucevic, just a different Bulls guy who he's not an amazing defender or anything like that, but he'll get you rebounds. He can space the floor. He's playing next to Draymond Green, who's an awesome defender. He'll make him naturally better on defense, just sharing the floor together. There's no one on Chicago that comes close to what Draymond can do in terms of being a floor general, moving pieces around, talking, communicating on the court, calling out screens, boxing out, etc. So Vucevic, also a good one. Cam Johnson, I would say, is more like a lower level guy. Like you don't really give up that much for a guy like that. He's just a good player. But if you're going to quote unquote mortgage the future, I can see some hesitancy to go, let's go all out. If you get a good deal for a Cam Johnson, go for it. I think if you give away too much, that's you're just kind of caving in. That I do believe that you could be caving in a bit to get a Cam Johnson, where maybe in the off season you have an opportunity to get Jimmy Butler for free or something like that. I don't know. That's if Pat Riley decides to play this. I'm the man here. It's 1997. I'm putting out a press release that we're not trading Jimmy Butler. I don't know. Who are the Jared Allen also like pretty good trading. I don't know if Cleveland will do it now because of how well they're doing, but Jared Allen's not bad either. The audacious ones are like Giannis and Zion. Otherwise, I think that they're in a tough place. But yeah, I think Vucevic, LaVine, and Butler are the top three targets that do make the team significantly better.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Another guy that might make sense. I don't know if Toronto would do this like a Jakob Poeltl. Like he might make some sense. Like, but I don't know. Like these are the guys. Like the guys you mentioned. Those are guys you got to give away your future for, right? Butler, LaVine, not Vucevic as much. It sounds like he can be like the Bulls are kind of like you can have him for a little bit cheaper. So LaVine, Butler. But again, these guys cost money. You only have so many big money contracts. Like I think Wiggins and Green are like they're guys that are making the next like 2 and 3 after Steph. So after that, like how do you balance that? I don't know. But I do like the Vucevic one. I think that if you can put in a Vucevic, because that's what they're lacking is rebounding, some guy that can just play from the post, can find shooters. I think then you also got to go out a shooter after Vucevic, right? That's the other thing. Like, or you hope Buddy Hield can find his mojo again. Like he just looks horrendous some days, right? And it's just like, what is this guy? Like he's the ultimate heat check dude. And so I think that's where the Warriors are at, right? They got to get a big that can help the interior, and then they got to find another shooter, right? That's a little more consistent of a shooter, maybe another 3-and-D guy. And I think that's why they like DeAnthony Melton a lot, because that's what he was bringing to the table.
Yep, and he started off the year very well, and he did play well. He's a good defender, veteran player, spaces the floor, and he started off the year shooting hot. There has to be something jarring about Melton goes down and the team just like crumbles. Like Melton should not be the reason why the team just immediately starts nosediving in terms of form, because one guy who you signed for $15 million a year can't play.
100%, yeah. I mean, DeAnthony Melton should not be the guy that derailed this whole thing.
Right.
It should not be that case. How do you feel about the Dennis Schroeder trade? Like, so far we're about a month into that trade, give or take. Doesn't seem to be working out, right? Is that another mistake they made? They're like, oh, we got Dennis Schroeder for what was it, like just nothing basically. It was like free. Dennis Schroeder was free. I think they kind of talked themselves into we need a point guard behind Steph when that wasn't the case. What they needed was another player with Steph, not behind Steph, with Steph. And Dennis Schroeder can't play with Steph is what it looks like.
Well, they're starting him, right? So like, what is Steph is shooting guard? Like, what's the 2-guard combo? I like the trade. He's a good backup point guard, but they're starting him. And they had Chris Paul last year who they started, and Chris Paul is an amazing point guard, and that didn't work. It just started off. There's a funny flowchart on Twitter that's like start off amazing, we're the best, and then it falls apart like 2 months into the season. This one is like we're 2 months into the season. Let's draft a point guard that's like that's a bench guy. It makes sense to have a ball handler. He can get to the line. He can score in bunches. I don't mind the trade. It's just that that's not what the team needs. I like the trade. And there's a lot of folks that didn't. I don't mind the trade. But it's not going to move the needle as much as you think. Like, it doesn't make you better down the stretch in late game situations. Defensively, you don't get any better. So I don't mind the signing. It's just not the one they needed. They need more. Clearly, they need more. They're 19-19. They need more.
100%. Yeah, I think it's just weird to like they want to start Schroeder when it's clearly you need something interior or you need shooting. You need one of those. Schroeder's not the guy that does that. He's great off the, like you said, he could be a great off the bench guy, a sixth man type of dude. But yeah, he doesn't really move the needle. So I mean, like we kind of talked about it. We've been talking about guys they can get, what they can do, trade draft picks. You know, if you're Mike Dunleavy, how are you thinking about these next 2-3 years? Like, what do you want the Warriors to do? Okay, let's say they missed the playoffs again this year. What are the next 2-3 years after that looking like? Because that's probably Steph's window right there, right? Maybe 2 years is what we're talking about. So how do you, if you're Mike Dunleavy, put on your Mike Dunleavy hat. Say what am I gonna do here in the next 2-3 years? What is your kind of like plan? Are you gonna, you don't have to go into specific names or anything like that, but what do you think is the plan? What is the game plan?
If I'm Mike Dunleavy, there are two different ways I can be Mike Dunleavy at this point, going into looking at from now to post Steph as an outlook, right? It's either, and this is us as fans thinking about their draft picks, it's who cares about what the team is like post Steph is kind of the sentiment, I think. And option one is to do right by Steph. Use up your picks by 2029, I don't know, 2031, whatever. You won't be able to draft very high. Whoop-de-doo. But you acquire all-star talent to, at the minimum, compete, which is fine. They'll make money. The franchise will be happy to be in the playoffs. Steph will be content with, look, I gave it a shot. But I would say if they manage to acquire some solid players down the end of that Steph Curry contract, maybe they can get some assets back. There was a team recently, it was Houston or Brooklyn, that was able to get some of their picks back that they had mortgaged away. So there's that. There's like doing right by Steph. The other is the other Mike Dunleavy, who's kind of the guy we're seeing right now. And they ride things the way they are until, or moderately close to now. They forget two timelines, okay? They'll be sitting on a recurring one timeline for a long time until they somehow hit on draft picks again. So it's those two things. You either do right by Steph or you continue to, believe your own bullshit, smell your own finger, et cetera, et cetera.